Welcome to the channel that challenges the status quo and gives real answers to questions otherwise sugar-coated. It would seem that the term anti-Semite is one thrown around with relative abandon these days, generally in defense of Israelis. To know the true definition of an anti-Semite, one must first know what makes a Semite. Yes? There are a particular people that seem to believe that they and they alone make up what are called Semitic people, and that to criticize the actions of those people, even when it is warranted, makes one an anti-Semite, putting the person that's doing the criticizing into a class of people called bigots. Many people fear being put into a class of bigots because, well, they are perceived as not very nice. And it would seem that appearing as a nice person in the 21st century takes precedence over everything, even common sense. Never mind that you may be a terrible person in every other way, at least you're not a bigot. Or worst of all, an anti-Semite. So in the true spirit of finding the truth, I, Seamus Pendragon, will give you the true definition of an anti-Semite. And I will do that by first giving evidence as to what it means to be a Semitic person in the first place. A Semitic person is one that comes from a group of people that speak a language coming from the Semitic language group. That is correct. A Semite comes from a language group. And to make things easier for my American friends that attended government schools and then did not further your education after high school, I am referring here to self-directed education, I will give you a group of people something to use as a comparison for such things. You should find it quite easy to understand. Most in America are familiar with a group of people called Hispanics. They are a variety of folks that hail from many different countries that speak the Spanish language. Those countries are themselves made up of many different religions, races, and cultures. To say you're anti-Hispanic would mean that you are against Negroes, Caucasians, Asians, Indigenous, among other people. You would also be opposed to the multitude of religions represented by those groups of Hispanics. Now that you understand that to be Semitic is like being Hispanic, at least in the sense of language, we can move forward to explain the true meaning of an anti-Semite by explaining the Semitic people. One of the sources I used was the website Britannica.com, for which I will enlighten you as not always being the most reliable, so you have to bounce it off from other sources. It tells us that a Semite is a name given to a number of people that come from the Semitic language group. That group includes such people as Arabs, Akkadians, Canaanites, Hebrews, some Ethiopians, as well as others. It goes on to say that there is no archaeological or scientific evidence to support the belief in any one people as Semites. As well, this does not in any way denote a race of people. Is the true meaning of an anti-Semite starting to confuse you just a little bit? Well, you're not alone. I do applaud the fact that you are attempting to learn the truth concerning the use of the word and what actions would condemn someone for being anti-Semitic. There is a current movement underway that would erase history and make the term even more confusing. There are those that want to massage the ego of a little country called Israel and the religious followers of the Judaic religion, those who refer to themselves as Jews. These people would be the only recipients of the term anti-Semitic. I like to refer to this as the omitting or erasing of history and truth to serve the needs of the one over the many. In a move to marginalize the Arab community, the true definition of an anti-Semite would be anyone that hates or takes actions against a group of people that hail from the Semitic language group. Arabs being the largest by far of any group living today that qualifies for that title of Semite, which would make Israel the second most anti-Semitic country, using the true definition of an anti-Semite. The apartheid country of Israel would love to eliminate the Arabs from the mix of Semitic people, because if the idiots that make up the population in the Western world ever come to their senses, and let's face it, probably not going to happen, but if they do, they will see Israel as the most prolific hater of the Semitic people, while at the same time claiming victimhood from anti-Semitism. A bit of a conundrum, if you were to ask me. You see, Israel spends more American dollars to kill the Arab people than any country outside of the United States. The United States, a grand supporter of the terrorist nation of Israel, kills more Arabs than any other country on the planet. The true definition of an anti-Semite would simply require an examination of the politics of America and Israel. If being a Semite is dependent on the fact that one comes from the Semitic language group, then Arabs have the largest percentage of people in that group than anyone. Otherwise, the American people would examine the policy of funding the war in Ukraine for that country to defend itself against attackers, while at the same time funding Israel to attack and drive Palestinians out of once was their homeland and has been for several thousand years. The entire northern rim of Africa, including Egypt, speak Arabic, one of the languages in the group of Semitic languages. The Horn of Africa, which would include Somalia, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Djibouti, probably just butchered them, being just some of the countries that use the Semitic language of Arabic. So how is it that the Jews want exclusive ownership of this title? And how is anti-Semitic only an issue when it concerns the Jewish people? I have said this before and will say it again. My displeasure towards the Judeo-Christian is centered on their religion and leadership, not the victims of either religion, which are the followers of the depraved leadership. Just as I see the followers of Islam being victim of the depraved leaders of the radical wings of that religion, this somehow ties into the belief in the myth of the Jewish race, even though it is clearly stated that being a Semite does not define a race. Logic, common sense do not get any time in the limelight when discussing anything to do with the terrorist nation of Israel, because most Americans, as well as Europeans, are under the spell of the Judeo-Christian religion, a religion built on a foundation of lies and fabrication that this author has made it his remaining life's ambition to educate the people to. The true definition of an anti-Semite we have shown is the typical American or Israeli citizen, which is confusing because they both claim to be of the same family as Arabs, descended, they believe, from this guy called Noah. Somehow all the races and people came from this one family following a flood, we are told, created by their God to destroy humanity. But then in a move that can only be described in modern terms as bipolar, this God then saves one family from destruction, Noah being that guy, and Shem being one of the sons of Noah. An Oxford reference says this is where the word Semite comes from. It states it is the Latin from the Greek sem. This, in my opinion, is not a scientific manner to name anything. This comes from the same book that told us that the sun rotates around the earth, an earth that is flat. And because I have many writings that discuss that, I will spare the reader my jumping on the soapbox and preaching the many discrepancies found in the so-called Holy Bible. So, does the true definition of an anti-Semite really mean the family members descended from the mythological Noah that have killed each other since time immemorable, all because of the writings of so-called prophets and priests that determined 2,000 years ago that this is the way it's going to go moving forward? You're still going to follow this shit? The leadership of the church or state never ceases to attach labels to members of society. Some labels are designed to attract the desired hatred towards one group or another. Other labels are designed to put a particular group off limits of any criticism or scrutiny. As we have seen here, the true definition of an anti-Semite means absolutely nothing outside of identifying a people belonging to a language group finding disfavor among others. Those very people that make up the group committing atrocities against another group of people in their own language group. In other words, like roosters involved in a cockfight, people just hate each other. And attaching labels such as anti-Semite offers protection for one group while condemning the other, all for doing the same things to each other. The reason for putting this together for you are many, but the one that stands ahead above all others is to educate the listener on the truth. It is only when you know the truth, based on facts, can you make a good decision. You're not going to get this from the media, which is slanted and controlled to manipulate you. The more people come to know and understand the truth, the sooner we can reclaim true liberty and depose of the oppressors. I recently was gifted a book that I treasure, not because of the cost of the book, but because of the value of its content. The book is a copy of Aesop's Fables, and there is a short fable I would like to share with you now. It is called The Partridge and the Cock. A certain man, having taken a partridge, cut his wings and put him into a little yard where he kept his gamecocks. The cocks were not all that civil to the newcomer, who at first put his treatment down to the fact of him being a stranger. When, however, he found that they frequently fought and nearly killed each other, he ceased to wonder that they did not respect him. The moral? Those who do not treat their kindred well make poor friends. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you got a little something out of this you can use down the line. Thank you very much. Seamus Pendragon, out.